Can you hear me? Excuse me. I don't hear an echo. Is anyone in the messagey thingy? Can they say hello? Can they hear me? Yada yada. It's it new. Do I sound okay? Is there an echo? Can you hear me clearly? Sounds good. Okay, cool. Then I will just hang tight for a minute. I grab that link. Drop that in the chat. Oop, that's not the chat. Wham. Why? Yes, I can. I'm not recording yet. I'll be doing that in a minute. God damn it, my enter button doesn't work. Paste shit. Not that it, yeah. Paste shit's not a good thing.
Don't piss shit.
That would.
Shit piss.
Ew.
Piss at your ass.
Oh, bad. I was. It's true. Popcorn's not going to do it, I don't think. Yeah, well, that's fair. Drinking is preferable to popcorn, I think. Hey, this one's only $20 and it's got a refillable. Nice.
Complexities of this ambitious cinematic masterpiece? This movie isn't stupid! You're stupid! Am I the only one who understands the complexities of this ambitious cinematic masterpiece?
You fucking did you win? Jesus.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get this show started. Okay, so since we're going to start, just going to go ahead and start off with my usual spiel, which is to say my name is Astrius Coyote. I may have been drinking today, so bear with me. Yes, I'm a vet tech. I talk about veterinary stuff while I die a lot in this video game, which is Ori and the Blind Forest, which is an awesome, awesome video game, which you should totally play if you haven't. Oh yeah, I swear a lot. And somewhat bizarrely. So if you can't handle lots of words like shit, fuck, piss, that sort of thing, usually in that order, this may not be the stream for you. I'm going to also start off by saying that everything that I'm about to say in this stream is based entirely off of my own education and experience. If you have any medical questions regarding your pet, please, please always consult your actual veterinarian. You feel free to ask me any questions you want, but at the end of the day, a veterinarian who can actually put their hands on your pet and take a look at your pet in person is going to have better answers for you than anything I'm going to be able to do over the internet. So, without further ado, what is a do anyway? Things do. What do, Pikachu? Basically, I'm just going to talk about shit that I find interesting. And today, we're going to talk about parasites. Excuse me. Ow, you bastard. Die, bastards. So, yes, what was I saying? I fucking have to do this kind of bullshit. I hate this kind of bullshit. So, parasites. What does it mean to be a parasite? It means to be an absolute rat bastard. Actually, what it really means is to benefit off of a living organism without giving any benefits of your own. I don't know. Why aren't I not bashing? It could be. Damn it. Because my aim is shit. That's why. I never had good aim in this. However, yes, to be a parasite, basically what that means is that you have a situation wherein an animal is benefiting directly off of a host animal without giving any real benefits in return. For example, a very good example actually is a flea, which, this looks ominous, which sucks the blood of its host without benefiting its host at all. Oh, hey, wow, the music changed. This is going to get real spooky here in a bit. Shit's getting real. I don't think I can do anything in here yet. Because I think that's like the end game status. So yes, a flea is just one of many different kinds of parasites. There are parasites that literally infect pretty much any aspect of the body. So when I say anywhere could have a parasite, I mean anywhere could have a parasite. There are kidney worms, for heaven's sakes, in horses. There are lung worms. Yes, those exist. There are things that there's liver flukes. There's all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly, horrible shit. And I'm going to talk about them. So, why do I laugh when I say that? Because I'm a sick monkey. Is why I got into veterinary medicine. Honestly, is because it is just absolutely awesome to me that there are so many things that can go horribly, horribly wrong in the animal's body. But no, the truth of it is that they're interesting to talk about because of the fact that you can prevent them. They cause a lot of different diseases, but you can prevent them. So first of all, let's talk about some common ones. First of all, everybody knows about fleas and ticks. Those are topical, which is to say they are on the skin, and typically speaking, you will not find them anywhere else except on the skin, barring some very bizarre and unforeseen circumstances, but we don't have time for all of that. So if you find little bugs crawling on your animal, your dog, your cat, chances are it's probably a flea or a tick. They can have lice. There are some lice that infect cats, dogs, and rabbits, as well as other such animals. There are chicken lice. There are all kinds of lice, actually. But they are species-specific. A lot of these parasites actually will be. Because parasites, much like diseases in and of themselves, by and large don't like to fuck around outside of a certain host range. For example, a couple weeks ago, I talked about heartworm disease. Heartworm disease is something that you will find in dogs and cats, and select other few animals, but you will not find it in humans. Why? Because our bodies are inhospitable to the... is it that button? No, it's... I had to look this up the last time because I couldn't remember the cool thing that made me do the thing. No, it's not that button. It's that button! Woohoo! Alright. Hang on a second, plot point. For those of you just joining us, her is Kuro. She's a very angry bird, and, well, we accidentally may have sort of murdered her children. We didn't mean to. Just our light is too strong for them. So if I'm remembering the game correctly, this is where a lot of oh shit happens. Yup. A lot of oh shit today. So. So if you find something crawling on your animal, it's probably a flea or a tick. By and large, it's probably going to be a flea. The reason I say this specifically is because I'm gonna die. Yep. Is because fleas are much more mobile than ticks. Ticks will find a spot where they can infest your animal and they will lock on and they will stay there. By and large, they will not be terribly mobile after that. Sometimes they will... what's the word I'm looking for? They will release, because contrary to popular belief, ticks will actually take multiple blood meals from different hosts. So if you have a dog with a seed tick, it may actually fall off and then infect a dog or cat further down the line. Come on, get in the water! Damn it. Yes, you do have to start kind of over from the beginning-ish if you fuck this up, by the way. Up. Oh, I'm dead. I'm so dead. She doesn't kill me, everything else will. But fleas are going to be running around on your creature. They jump on, they jump off, they jump around, they burrow down into your carpets, they lay their eggs down there. eggs are actually not sticky. They will roll off your pet if they do by chance lay any eggs on your pet. They will then roll off onto your floor. Come on, quit using the bash technique. I hate this system. I hate the fact that it automatically assumes you want to bash downwards when you just push down. It's very frustrating. You may have heard me bitch about that in one of my previous streams, actually. So, ticks, not very mobile, can vary in size from being itty-bitty little seed ticks, that's usually how they start out, to big honkers that are like, oh, I don't know, freaking dime-sized. Those guys are fucking huge and gross. Okay, I didn't know that that's where that stopped. Thankfully, I don't have to start all the way over again like I did on the last one. That sucked. Ow. Oh, I hate this part. Eh. But, oh, more plot point. More plot point. Okay, when I said I was going to beat the game, I didn't know I was that close to the end. I mean, I did just get blown out of a volcano sign, so, you know, you can cut me some slack here. Nope. That's Kuro, by the way. Ow. But Mom came looking for me. I didn't mean to. Is it okay if I talk at this point? So, most of this at this point is going to be cinematic, so feel free to ignore what I'm saying if you want to just focus on how pretty everything is. But So fleas and ticks are topical because they will sit on the skin, the surface of your animal. So will lice. Lice will be, they'll look like little white bulbs on the hairs of your cat or dog, or rabbit or chicken. And instead of on chickens, it's on their feathers instead of on their hair, because obviously, hey, look, friends. But all of these can be easily treated with the proper medications. And for at least fleas and ticks, they can be prevented in dogs and cats. They can actually, yeah, it is one of the best video games ever, or video game endings ever. But really, both of those statements are true. Oh, this is one of my favorite parts. We saved the egg. Hope springs eternal. So, sure, I'll just talk while there's cinematography going on. Fleas and ticks, generally speaking, you will find medications that can prevent both. So this can come in either a topical or an oral sort of fashion. Oral ones typically work a little bit better than topicals these days. We are starting to find fleas in particular that are developing resistance to topical flea treatments. Things like Advantix and Frontline are less effective than they used to be, which is really frustrating because, those are the over-the-counter ones. They're easy to get. And sometimes they still work. And if they work for you and the fleas are staying off your animal, by all means, stay with it. If it is not, however, working quite the way that it used to, you might consider stepping up to a slightly more powerful one, or an oral. There are about as many over-the-counter options as there are prescription options. Be careful of the over-the-counter ones. There are some out there that have been known to have a history of causing seizures in animals, and I don't say that lightly. It's pretty notable that you get what you pay for in most medications, and that's especially true in over-the-counter pet meds. So if you pick up something like Adams or Biospot or Hearts, some of these can be about as effective as pouring water on your animal or peeing on them, which is neither of those are effective at flea deterrent, and may actually cause your animal to have horrible reactions. So be very, very careful what flea products you use over the counter. Invest in the good stuff because it just, one, works better, and two, is less likely to land your animal in the hospital. Oh, yeah, Biospot did, actually, a couple of them have, over the history of time, have caused seizures in animals so bad that they basically went into organ failure and died. So that's what I mean by how bad they can get. However, by and large, the ones that you will find in veterinary offices or clinics are vetted to not have those kinds of reactions, to not have any risk of seizures, or at least minimal risk, and a higher efficacy. One of the ones that my old clinic used to use was Revolution for cats. Very good. You can also use Revolution on dogs. Another one that we would also send home, or that we send home now in my current clinic, is Advantage. And I know that sounds very similar to Advantix. It's not the same. But again, you can also get oral, and oral tends to work better just because it's systemic instead of going through the bilipid layer in the skin. So instead of having to disperse that way, it's dispersed via your bloodstream, the pet's bloodstream, which works really, really well. Various forms of that will include things like Comfortis, Simparica, Trifexis, what are some other good ones? NexGard, that's another one. And you'll find that a lot of these have different active ingredients, and part of that is because a lot of these will cover different ranges of parasites. So, for example, NexGard takes care of fleas and ticks, but it does not cover anything else. Trifexis takes care of fleas. It does not cover ticks, but it does cover heartworm disease. And it's a matter of what all is in the formulary. Revolution covers fleas and ticks and mites, as well as heartworm disease. So it's just a. This is the best picture. The end. So since I've done playing a video game and it's only been 17 minutes into the thing, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to play some Journey. If anybody has any problems with that, hang on a second. So yes, thank you for journeying with me through Ori and the Blind Forest. That's a lot of fun. I do enjoy that game and would 100% recommend it to anybody anytime. It is quite the thing to play. Hold on a second while I figure out how to get Journey to. Oh, son of a bitch! It's got an update. Of course it does. So while it's updating, so when you get preventative, you have to keep in mind what you're covering, why you're covering it, do you need to cover it in your area, and are you already covering it with something else? Because you don't necessarily want to double dose your animal for something. It's not necessarily bad to have multiple items of coverage, but you also don't want to overdose them on particular things either. So, what am I talking about? Well, we talked about topical parasites. Let's talk about internal parasites. Common ones for cats and dogs are worms, and I mean intestinal worms specifically. Roundworms are particularly bad in my state here in Oregon. The Willamette Valley in particular is an absolute hotbed for roundworms. And roundworms, their eggs live in the soil, and you can pick them up by contact with your skin against the bare dirt. So much more powerful game than Ori 2, as good as that game is. It is a very good game. It's very tight in its mechanics, but I have to agree that the storyline is that much more heartbreaking when it comes to the original. Let's go ahead to main. All right, so this is Journey. Not what I intended to play right now, but it's a good one. If you've never played this game before, I highly encourage it because it's a very simple storytelling game. I find it to be almost meditative in a way. So, intestinal parasites can include roundworms, hookworms, tapeworms, whipworms. One thing that you will not find in dogs and cats that you will find in humans is pinworms. And pinworms will affect horses, they will affect cattle, but by and large you do not find them in your pets at home unless you're spending a lot of time down on the ranch. So if you have a doctor who says, oh, well, little Timmy's been diagnosed with pinworms, he probably got it from the family dog. He did not get it from the family dog. Hang on, very loud. One of the other things I love about this game is its replayability. I can't tell you how many times I've played this game, and every time I want to come back to it anyway. So, oh yeah, my mode's different. Let's go that way. Can I go that way? No? You won't let me do it that way? Okay. There we go. Camera. Alright. So, roundworms, hookworms, and whipworms are fairly common intestinal parasites in cats and dogs and can typically be all treated with the same drugs. They're pretty weak in terms of their constitution. They are, however, problematic in large amounts and can cause some pretty serious problems, including malnutrition, diarrhea, just all kinds of bad. So, behold the mountain. So if your dog or cat comes in, if you've got a teeny tiny kitten or a puppy, since their immune systems are so naive, they're more prone to pick up intestinal parasites, at least roundworms, hookworms, that sort of thing. They're also much more likely to be in contact with them because they are often on the ground and they are in contact with feces. Sometimes they're litter mates or their mothers. The eggs can sometimes be passed through the milk, for example, which is also not good, but it does happen. So that is something to be conscious of. Again, most of those can be treated with pyrantel or any other broad spectrum dewormer. Hello, little cloth friends. Ooh, look, I have a scarf. But one that you will find does not get treated by these things is tapeworms. You will find that tapeworms are stubborn and very hardy little things, and typically will not obey the usual rules and will not just die when they're supposed to. So, that being what it is, you'll have to be very careful about making sure that you identify them correctly. Say your cat comes in and you notice worms in his stool. One of the first questions the veterinarian will ask you is, what do they look like? Do they look like spaghetti? Long and round and sort of noodly? Or do they look like little segments, bits of rice? Or if they're dried up, do they look like sesame seeds? Those are tapeworms, the little short guys, because literally they will shed their segments as a means of reproducing. So, hello? Were you not going to help me, guys? Thank you. So, identification is crucial. There are over-the-counter medications that you can use for them as well. And I told you that pyrantel, P-Y-R, actually I'm going to drop that in the chat real fast here, P-Y-R. Pyrantel. Okay, so if you've got, oh, I can't say it in there because apparently I haven't logged in myself. So Pyrantel. Correct. Pyrantel. That will take care of pretty much everything in terms of regular, old-fashioned, weak roundworms. Oh, these are all headstones. That's not terrifying at all. Tapeworms do not get affected by pyrantel. They are stubborn, they are obnoxious, and they are nasty little boogers. And that part where I said that they shed their segments to reproduce, yeah. So if you touch those, you can actually pick up or absorb or otherwise transmit the eggs, because each of those segments carries thousands of eggs. Horrifying, isn't it? So that's how they spread, is your dog or cat will poop, and those segments will come out, another animal will come along in contact with those and burst those casings, and suddenly now you have a whole bunch of tapeworm eggs just bloody everywhere, and it's nasty and it's gross, it's horrible. So how do you get rid of those guys? Well, thankfully you can in fact get rid of them also with over-the-counter medication. You do not necessarily have to go to a veterinarian. You can actually get what is called a praziquantel. That's P-R-A, Prazi, P-R-A-Z. I'm going to type it out because I was never good at spelling these. Prazi, I-Q-U-A-N-T-E-L, praziquantel. And that's, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Kua, for being my translator. And praziquantel will take care of everything else in terms of internal parasites for the intestines. At least it'll take care of the tapeworms. You can also run into other parasites, but generally speaking, they will be less common. Some of these will include coccidia, giardia, and those, typically speaking, are they're protozoa rather than full-on worms or helminths, as we like to call them in the biz. And they will cause problems, but you generally do need to see a veterinarian to get those, one, diagnosed, and two, actually treated, because they're microscopic and you need to actually do a fecal sample to actually see them and identify them correctly. Giardia may actually require a SNAP test, where we actually determine that it's there by virtue of the antigens it produces. So those guys, unfortunately, you can't really prevent in terms of like a medication like you do with, say, fleas or ticks. But if you do deworm your animal monthly, that will help a lot. So having a broad spectrum dewormer in a flea or heartworm treatment or something for that example. Trifexis is a broad spectrum dewormer. Advantage Multi is a broad spectrum dewormer. So is Revolution. I believe that may actually take care of some intestinal parasites. I'm not 100% sure on that one. Yay! Look at them all fly free. So that takes care of the guts. The more rare ones you're going to find are going to be things like, oh god, I don't know what some of the more rare ones are. At least for the guts. Those are the big ones, though. And we talked about fleas and ticks, of course, which are the lovely topical ones. And then you've got the heart, which I talked about heartworm disease a little while ago. Not last week, but I think the week before, where I talked about getting preventative for those guys as well, because they are in fact worms that live in the heart, as gross as that sounds. So, those are all things to keep in mind whenever you're getting any kind of prevention. So let's talk about avoiding some parasites, considering the fact that prevention is worth a pound of cure. Which button is it? Oh, it's that one. Oh! I knew there was a button to do the sound. That button. Yay. Whee. Plot point. These plot points are shorter, by the way. I always loved this story. It is such a good story. So, avoiding parasites. Well, parasites can be everywhere. As I said, roundworms like to live in the soil, and another good place to find pretty much any worm of any kind is in another animal's feces, because when it's an intestinal parasite and it lays its eggs, that's all going to go back out through the exit hole. So if you keep your animals away from other animals' poop, that will help. If you have an animal that is diagnosed with having worms, that is a good time to clean out the places where they go to the bathroom. Because if they poop well, yes, if they poop. If they poop in a certain area and have exposure to their own feces that have actively shed worm eggs in them, guess what? They're going to reinfect themselves, and that's going to not help things at all. So if you have, say, a cat with tapeworms, yes, it's good that you treat them for the tapeworms. That's great. But you also have to clean out their litter box. You have to scrub it real good, and make sure that their litter is fresh and clean until they have been cleared for not having tapeworms anymore. Because if you don't, they're just going to reinfect themselves. The same thing with dogs, in terms of any kind of parasite that they get. And it's just in general a good idea not to let your animals near other animals' poop anyway, because there's all kinds of pathogens that can be in that stuff. So, good practice to not let your animal sniff other dogs' or cats' poop, or really just be around it at all anytime. How do I get up here? Oh, like that, apparently. Let's see, what else? bad water. Bad water is a good one to keep a close eye on, because if you have a dog or cat that drinks stagnant water, they can get all kinds of nasty things. Another thing that they can get is giardia, and that is typically found in lakes, streams, rivers, anywhere that has essentially wild, untreated water. So if you go hiking with your dog or cat, I don't know, some people take their cats hiking, I guess, I don't know, couldn't be me. That would be something that you'd want to keep a very close eye on, is not allowing them to drink from any still water puddles or anything like that. So what else is there? Heartworm disease is spread by mosquitoes. If you control the area around your home, if you make sure that your animal is wearing mosquito repellent and otherwise protected against mosquitoes, if you prevent mosquitoes from spreading or being able to breed in your vicinity, that should help. Let's see, what else is there? Trying to think. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by all the cool that's happening on my screen. Any questions so far? Don't appear to be any questions. What are some unusual things that I will sometimes see? Lungworms. Lungworms are about as awful as they sound. And, honestly, the way that you will find them and diagnose them by and large is due to your animal having a persistent cough, excessive drooling, that sort of a thing. That is something that can only be diagnosed by a veterinarian, because there's many, many reasons that a cough can happen. It requires what's called a tracheal wash in order to get an adequate sample to actually determine whether or not there are eggs or larvae or worms themselves in the actual trachea, lungs, or otherwise respiratory tract of a cat or dog. Smash them with a hammer. If you're a flea and that flea is Cusco, yes. Let's see, what else is there? I was talking about kidney worms in horses. That's something that only a veterinarian can diagnose with some very interesting blood tests. There are liver flukes. Liver flukes, by and large, are not common, thankfully, and those can only be diagnosed by a veterinarian. These will all require medication that is not over the counter. Fleas and ticks, roundworms, hookworms, and tapeworms all can be. These are the most common, so that is why there's generally a generic form that you can use. What else is there that I'm thinking of? Talk about mice. Oh! Mites. So mites do happen, and they're a little bit more common than you'd like to think. They're not terribly common in dogs or cats, but they do happen, particularly in the ears. The concept of ear mites is something that you see fairly frequently, especially in cats when they come from a shelter. And they will be classically identifiable with black crud in the ears. If you have a dog or cat with just a standard ear infection where it's just like, oh, your ears are kind of infected, or they're painful or itchy or whatever, that could be yeast, that could be bacteria, but if it's that black, tarry, crumbly crud, that's almost certainly going to be ear mites. We frequently have people come in saying, "Oh, my animal has ear mites," and it's not. It's just a yeast infection. But if it's that black stuff, that's probably ear mites. Very easy to treat. Again, like I said, certain topicals like Revolution will treat them. Advantage Multi will treat it. Sometimes it will take multiple applications, but if you stay up on it and you keep it cleaned out, that will take care of the infection. That is spread generally via proximity. So if you have a cat that comes from a shelter, there's a possibility that they'll pick up ear mites. If they go outside, they can pick it up from encounters with other animals, but that is not entirely uncommon. Dogs are less prone to ear mites, but they can get them. They are not the primary host, however. I have seen the worst ear mite infection I have ever seen in my life was in a rabbit, of all things. It was so bad, I spent 20 minutes cleaning out the poor thing's ears before we treated her with Advantage Multi to get rid of that stuff, because it was bad. But they have such long, deep ear canals, they've really gotten themselves very established. And, there's actually mites crawling around in there, feasting on the blood of the animal and pooping and having sex and laying eggs. It's bad stuff. So that's not something you want to leave in your pet's ear, because it can cause damage to the eardrum, and if it ruptures the eardrum and it gets into the inner ear, it causes infection. It can actually cause neurological damage and kill them. So don't leave, your standard dog or cat to be to fend for themselves when it comes to ear infections. It's bad juju. What was what? What are some signs of noticing parasites? Excessive itching is a good sign that you have a flea infestation, but it could also be allergies. So what you'll want to do is run your hand backwards along the animal's fur and see if any little black debris, looks almost like sand, comes off. Or if you see any fleas in particular. If you see live fleas, obviously you have a flea problem. If you see just that black sort of sandy stuff, that's not usually fleas themselves, but rather their poop. It's digested blood. So if you see that, yeah, it's called flea dirt. With a wet comb, and it runs red because it's basically rehydrating the blood. So that's how you can tell if you have a flea infestation in that regard. Also telltale little red bites that will also cause, some suspicion. Ticks. The only way to really see a tick is there's a tick. If you see a tick, there's a tick problem. Worms will usually make themselves known in the feces of the animal. So if you have a dog or cat with suspicious-looking wiggly things in its poop, or segments around its butt, or in the fur around the butt. No, not quite like a Cthulhu mouth coming out of the ass, thankfully, because that's horrifying and gross. Thankfully, no. No, it's just when they poop, there will be things in the poop. Is more what it looks like. Or you could see them stuck or dried around the anus. That does happen periodically. Yes, I know it sounds horrible, but it is true. Excuse me. What's another thing? Excessive coughing, drooling, vomiting. There are actually cases where we will see cats with excessive, well, specifically cats. I've actually seen dogs do it too. But with excessive worm loads, intestinal parasite worm loads, that will actually vomit up worms. It sounds about as gross as it is. Pray you never see it. I strongly suggest monthly dewormers. What are some other signs? Heartworm disease, you're generally speaking only going to notice when your animal has advanced stages, which is to say difficulty breathing, exercise intolerance, coughing, because basically their heart is struggling at this point, so are their lungs. So that's generally when you'll start to see that sort of thing. Same thing with lungworms, to be honest. Giardia and I'm riding a rug. A whole new world. Okay. Giardia and coccidiosis, you're generally only going to notice with extreme diarrhea. So, oh, my dog just got into something that just didn't agree with him, isn't usually a valid enough excuse. If it persists past 1 or 2 episodes, you want to look into that. That's not typically something where it's like, oh, it's just this. It's never just anything. There's usually a reason. Let's see. What else is there? Covered topical. Covered ears. Signs of an ear infection, whether it's ear mites or not. If it's a yeast or bacterial infection. That is typically shaking of the head, excessive shaking of the head, and scratching at the ears. When it gets bad enough, you might have a head tilt because it just feels like there's something in there that they can't get out. So that would be something to look into. Let's see. No specific common parasites of the nose or the eye. You will sometimes see some wayward worms. Yes, I know that I just said that. That literally get lost. Where they will end up actually in the eyeball. It's terrifying. Different topic, apparently, according to my husband. Because that is just gross and horrible. But thankfully, there's nothing specific to that. What else might you find? Eyes, ears, nose, mouth. What was that one? Oh, rapid weight loss would definitely be one, yes, because malnutrition is a thing. Let's see what else comes to my brain. Okay. That's true. Okay, so I forgot what he said the first one. Oh yeah, treating the animal versus treating the environment. So one thing that you'll have to keep in mind whenever you're treating, particularly for a flea infestation, is that you need to treat the animal and the environment. Because if you treat just the environment, you're not going to get the main host. And if you treat just the host, you're not going to clear out where they're getting the infection from. So you have to be real careful to not accidentally leave yourself a big gap in that regard. If you have a flea infestation and you find yourself just at your wit's end, what you'll want to do is, first of all, get the flea preventative on the animal itself, and then work on cleaning up wherever they live, wherever they sleep, wherever they reside, wherever they eat. That includes the yard. There are sprays that you can do in terms of clearing out grassy space. There is a carpet spray, several carpet sprays out there that you can use to treat areas where they might walk around in your house. You'll also want to look at treating any upholstery that they sleep on, that they if they jump on your couch, that sort of a thing. You'll want to make sure you treat those properly as well. If you have a specific dog bed or something like that, you will want to make sure that you clear that out as well. Or cat bed, for that matter. Cat scratching posts, also important. If you can't treat these things necessarily with actual treatments like a spray or something like that, or powders, make sure you vacuum the hell out of them. Because if you vacuum the hell out of them, that will do a lot for sucking up any of the little eggs or parasites themselves. Keeping brush out of your yard will also help in terms of keeping ticks at a minimum, because by and large, ticks like brush or grass, tall grasses. So make sure you treat the environment as well as the animal whenever you do that sort of thing. Like I said about the roundworms and hookworms and tapeworms, if you have an animal that's infested with that, make sure you clean up not only where they poop in the yard, but also litter boxes, any place that comes in contact with their butt, really. All of those are very important to keep as clean as possible. So yes, whenever you have a parasite infestation, make sure that you're treating that as well. Easy versus difficult pets. Oh, this is a fun one. So if you have a fractious cat, you need to give... Oh, sorry. Oh, parasites. Easy versus Oh, I saw pets instead of pests. My bad. Honestly, the most difficult one to treat, in my opinion, are ticks. And the reason for that is because ticks... Well... Ticks don't play fair. They like to grab on, hold on, they inject a little bit of saliva, and then they start sucking blood. Now, yes, you can just tear them out, but there's the what if you left a part of the jaw mechanism still in there? What if you were too late and there's a little bit of infection? Because then you have to treat possibly a systemic infection, not just a topical one. What if they've already ingested blood that was contaminated with Lyme, and now you've got Lyme disease to worry about? So those are all things to keep in mind whenever you have a tick presence. It's problematic, it's a pain in the ass, and since they are really only preventable by having a flea and tick preventative on your animal or in your animal, it's a real pain in the ass. So that is definitely something that I find to be the most problematic. Fleas are just annoying. In terms of ease, they're really not that hard to treat, but they can be right pains in the ass to get fully rid of, because they have hatch cycles that go about every 2 weeks. So just because you've got one doesn't mean you've got all of them. So, let's see, what else is there? Heartworm disease, the only thing you can really do is honestly just prevention. You have to. If you clear out any places where mosquitoes can breed, that's a good thing. That will help. But the best thing to do is put your animal on a heartworm prevention. And there are preventions for both dogs and cats, so there's no excuse. And cats, as I said about my heartworm prevention, or my heartworm disease stream, there's no cure. The drugs that we use to treat heartworm disease will kill cats, so you have to be very careful with that. Let's see, what else is there? Thinking. Ear mites. Ear mites are actually pretty easy to treat, because of the fact that you clean out the ears real good and you treat them with the Milbamite or the Revolution or whichever topical treatment your veterinarian recommends, and that should take care of it. So, honestly, actually, coming to think of it, if you included protozoa in that, Giardia is the hardest one to treat, because Giardia is stubborn as hell, and it will take sometimes several courses before it finally clears up. And if in case you were wondering, yes, that's the same Giardia that people can get, codenamed hiker's diarrhea. So, yes, your pets can get it. No, it's not pretty. Yes, it smells awful. What else? Honestly, those are all the big ones. The problems that can arise from not treating parasites are obviously damaging. You can end up with everything from mild annoyance to death. For example, kittens who are infested with fleas can easily die from flea anemia, where they literally don't have any red blood cells in their body because the fleas have been drinking all their blood. It's horrible. It's awful. Please don't ever make that me have to treat that. So make sure you're treating your animals for fleas, because older pets can get that too. If they get infested badly enough, they can get flea anemia. And don't think that dogs are immune, because they have more surface area, which means they can house more fleas. Let's see. In addition to that, ticks can carry all kinds of diseases on their own as well. Lyme being one of them, but it's not the only one. Rocky Mountain spotted fever is another one. They carry all kinds of nasty, horrible things. Let's add to that the fact that, let's see, how do I phrase this? That they can transmit diseases that your dog or cat can then give to you. Yeah. So, if your cat or dog has fleas, the most important thing that's going to happen to you is probably just mild annoyance. Generally speaking, you're going to get bit, and that's going to be annoying, but it won't cause any problems. So, ticks are really the ones you'll have to worry about in that regard, because ticks will actually give diseases, and if you have an animal that manages to drop one, I told you that they will take multiple meals. If you have one that drops a tick, and that tick attaches to you, now you've got the possibility of also picking up those same diseases, such as Lyme, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and so on. Let me give you another little fun tidbit about fleas. So, fleas actually are a secondary host for tapeworms. And if your cat or dog has fleas, and they itch because the flea bit them, and then they chew to scratch that itch and ingest that flea can be carrying tapeworm eggs, and now they've just been infested with tapeworms. So please don't ingest any fleas, it's bad for you. Giardia can easily be spread to you if you have any contact with your pet's feces in any capacity, and I mean just stepping on it. Same thing with coccidia. Coccidiosis is something that humans can get as well. Campylobacter, but that's just a bacteria that lives in dog and cat's mouths. So don't French kiss your dog or your cat. It's generally a bad idea to do anyway, but they can also cause horrible, horrible diseases to then infest you. Roundworms, hookworms, tapeworms, all can be transmitted to humans. Generally speaking, the most important thing is to wash your hands after handling your animal at any point, but most especially their feces. That's really the biggest thing, because if you handle poop, you handle what's coming with that poop, and that can be real bad. To touch on something that I inadvertently brought up, if you have a difficult-to-treat animal, that can make getting them the right remedy very difficult. For example, if you've got a fractious cat and you need to give them a dewormer, your best bet is to go topically and not put your fingers in the dangerous bite zone, rather than, trying to convince them that, hey kitty, I'm trying to help you by giving you this pill. So that's something to consider. Same thing with dogs. Honestly, if you've got bitey dogs, maybe consider doing a topical instead of an oral. Most oral flea and tick preventatives in particular are tasty. At least that's what they tell me. I've never licked one, but they say, oh, it's beef flavored. So, I mean, there's a possibility that you might just be able to administer it without trouble. I don't know. By and large, most of the things that we have for treatments, we've tried to move away from the you have to take this mentality, which is to say, you know, shoving it down your animal's throat. Sometimes that's still the only method. There are common dewormers out there like Drontal or Pyrantel, just as is, which are just pills. That's all they are. It's just pills. And they're effective pills. They're good pills, and they do their job. But they're just pills, in which case the animal isn't going to want to take that willingly, and so you have to kind of jam it down their gullet. For some flea and tick preventions out there, they have tried to make them tasty so that the animal will willingly eat it without any prompting. And sometimes that works. Sometimes. So let's see, there is a spot. Oh, damn it. Never remember where it the fuck is. I want to say it's over here somewhere. Nope. That's not it. And now I'm out of juice. Ah, there it is. Sweet. Found it. Now actually hit it. Hit it! There. Ow. Bonk. So what else is there? But for the topicals, by and large, the topicals, you don't really have to fight them at all anyway. Because they just go on the animal's skin and ta-da, you're good. So let's see. We're about time. I expected a few more questions in here, which is why I'm kind of hesitating on some of these areas. Do we have any more questions? While I do pretty things in this game. I love this part. I know a lot of people, this is their favorite part. And back down we go. Before I let y'all go, I will perhaps relate a weird story, perhaps. I've got some pretty weird stories that have been coming up lately. Like, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen kind of situation? I did have a doctor try to spay a tomcat once. That was fun. It's apparently a fairly common thing for doctors to accidentally do in their first years, and he was a new student, or newly graduated student. And he didn't palpate the patient before he went in there for anesthesia. He came in, he saw that this was a sterilization procedure, and did a quick exam, look over, make sure the animal was good, but did not verify the sex, and had mistakenly thought that this animal was in for a spay. Now, it turns out that it worked out in his favor because this animal was cryptorchid, which means that one of his testicles did not fully drop. And that is a problem. You do not want to allow your animal to stay cryptorchid. Do not. Flat out. It can cause what is called a Sertoli tumor. Biggest one on record so far is a 25-pound Sertoli tumor that they pulled out of a German Shepherd. It can kill them. It can be fatal. It is real bad. Not to mention it's hereditary. So if you leave your animal intact and don't take out both testicles, guess what? Now you've got an animal that can potentially breed and pass down its cryptorchidism to the next generation. Which is why we have so many right now, because people have been breeding their animals indiscriminately. And now we have a lot of cryptorchid animals. But cats, you can't really do much about that. So he sort of saved his own ass by opening up this animal's abdomen, going, oh, there's no uterus, but hey, look, a testicle. And took that out and comped it to the owner because it was his mistake in the first place, but it worked out, so, yeah. It was one of those things where it was like, man, you pulled your fat out of the fire on that one. That could have been real bad. So, that is where we shall end it for tonight. I will put up a poll regarding what the next topic is. Don't forget, you can always donate to the Trevor Project using the link that I included in the chat at the start of all of this. I will also include that in my next Twitch thingy. So, yeah, share it again if you want to. Yeah. So, next week I will talk about something cool, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to have you guys vote on it. I'll continue to support the Trevor Project, honestly, because right now they need it a lot. Unless something else happens in this hell timeline to warrant it a little bit more. Other than that, I will be posting this to YouTube. If anybody has any questions, you can always DM me on Twitter, or you can comment here on YouTube, though I probably won't respond right away because I am terrible at my YouTubing. And I will be doing this again next week, since apparently people wanted me to do this weekly instead of just every other week. So that's new. So bear with me. I will try to be at least something regarding or resembling interesting. And maybe a little less drunk, because I did do an awful lot of ums this time. So, maybe less drinking. Oh, what? Wrap it up. That's what my husband's saying. Anyway, everybody have a good night. Take care of yourselves. Play Ori and the Blind Forest for yourself, and journey as well. Good night.